Welcome to another episode of the Butterfly Mindset Podcast.
Left late night, what a mess. We woke up and we're still obsessed. Can't keep it straight night and day. We keep it classy, still we stay.
Welcome to another episode of the Butterfly Mindset Podcast. Today we have Jeffrey Klubeck. Jeffrey, thank you so much for being here, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's going to be fun.
I appreciate it. Look, it's funny because when your bio came across, I get sent so many different bios, like, oh, this guest or that guest, yada yada. And when yours came across, it actually intrigued me. I was like, hey, I actually want to interview this person, and it seems like you'd be a great fit for the show. You do a lot. You're an international speaker. You're a founder. You're an author. You're a professor, university level. Really, really interesting. I mean, tell me more about yourself.
Well, it's there's some irony, first of all, right? Like, Jeff, you do so many things. It's all one thing. It's all communication, or to, a little more about me. It's all one thing. It's love. That's all I do is I love. It just shows up in all these different forms, but it's all one thing. It's love and it's communication. Communicare, to make one with, right? So more about me. I'm married. I've got 3 kids. I wake up every day and I figure out how am I going to deserve my wife and kids because I'm a lucky dude. And it's the next thing I know, I'm out of bed helping people, right? I've been helped in my life. It's a big deal for me to put myself in positions to give back. I kind of I don't want to put any money in my account unless I know I've helped somebody. I want to feel that,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Right. And no offense to the people in the world that, make the widgets and push the levers, but I'm an emotional guy. I wear it on my sleeve. I'm a bit of a walking dad joke. A lot of joviality, a lot of shtick in my, background. So, but as a professor of public speaking, they're terrified. They're, first year college students or adults that have put it off all their life, but they know they need it are coming back, right? But the idea, getting people past the fear of public speaking. So I developed, a humorous kind of, I don't know, make fun of myself, jackassy, dad jokey, disarming, fast-paced, humor-laced, a little
Yeah.
in your face. But basically, if I'm making fun and being silly like that, then next thing people know, like, wait a second, I learned something. What happened? I want to laugh their way to the learning. So I developed that, teaching public speaking in the classroom. I can keep going if you ask me more specific, but family guy,
No, yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting. I mean, it's interesting because first of all, I did, over the last rolling 12 months, I've done over 70 speaking engagements. And
Wow.
I was before I remember doing my first public speaking engagement, and I got an award, and they were like, "Will you speak at the event?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then I'm like, "What the hell?"
What did I
So I
just say
like
yes
wrote
to?
this thing, I memorized it word for word. I was
Uh-oh.
freaking myself out. I'm like, I hate speaking in front of people. I can't, like I'm super outgoing as it is, but with the thought of being in front of all these people is like just mind-boggling. Um, Long story short, like fast forward to where I'm at now, and people always ask, like, how do you do all of this? Uh, I just say what I know and I speak on what I know. And I know that there's going to be some people that are great and that love it, and then there's going to be some people that hate it. And I just accepted the people that hate it, and that's what it is. Most of the fear comes from us feeling like we're going to get judged, right? Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
Well, just to add to that, starting with ourselves, we are the first person to judge ourselves, but we blame it on everybody else. Right?
correct. Yep. So what's curious, what spikes my curiosity the most is like,
Yeah.
how did you go? We kind of talked right beforehand, but you said, you teach now at your alma mater, right?
Yeah.
Like, how did you go from being in college? I don't know what you studied. I'd be curious to know what you studied, and then how did you go from there to where you're at now?
Yeah. First of all, Kluby snack. I have my own motivational quotes. I call them Kluby snacks, hashtag Kluby snacks. So here's a Kluby snack for you. Everything is multi-determined. Everything. So how do you, well, there's a lot of different ways that, I got to where I am, and I'm only aware of some of them, right? So a couple that I'm aware of. I studied in college. My bachelor's was telecommunications management with a minor in sociology. And then when I stayed in school because I didn't know what I wanted to do, didn't feel prepared for anything, I liked school. But also I thought, if I stay for a master's degree and if I get accepted into this department, I'm already familiar. It should be easy to get a master's degree if I stay. So like it started off with, I'm an accountability guy now, but it started off with a lot of fear and a lot of take the easy road and path of least resistance for me, and but when I was in graduate school, things started to shift and things started to formulate for me. And graduate school, got a master's in communication, and then the units that I took outside of my department, because you have to take a specialization, was new media studies and educational technology, so technology for teaching. I was really fascinated. So my master's thesis was I was studying whether or not, to put it short, are students going to want to learn over the internet? Right. That's what I was studying in 1998, 1999. Academically,
Wow.
I was taking diffusion of innovations research, studying attributes of a population, attributes of an innovation that determine rate of adoption. And it was fat. So I'm like, well, what if the new idea is an online course? Does the theory hold? And so it was fascinating to be studying online courses and whether or not 18, 19, 20-year olds, traditional learners, are going to want to take classes over the internet. If I'm 18 years old, I want to be in class. I want to look around and see what's going on and be seen and be social, right? So it was fascinating because what the research showed was that the students most capable, right, from like lifestyle of doing online courses were the ones that didn't want to have anything to do with it. And the ones that were afraid of the technology of online courses are the ones that really needed the asynchronous learn at any time. Fascinating stuff. And so all these
That's
years later
interesting.
being very interesting, especially because now I'm back in the classroom, right? At my alma mater, where I was studying this in 1997, 98, 99, and now every classroom is wired with camera and podium and computer. And so I can record just with a couple of buttons, I can record every lecture. And so when students come up to me and say, I missed class, what did I miss? Did you watch the recording? Oh, there's a recording. Yeah. Ask me a question after you've watched the recording. You can watch it at 3 a.m. You can watch it at 1
Yep.
p.m. You can, right. And then it's like so I use technology in the classroom. I do Sunday night office hours. I record it, I post it, and it's just really cool to be able to have studied it so long ago, and now it's alive and breathing. And even what we're doing right now, look at what we're doing right now. We're Zooming, right? So I was studying, technology for teaching and online stuff back then, but how does one get to where you are now? I mean, there's so many bumps and bruises and twists and turns along the way. I finished my master's degree in communication, and then I traveled the country, saw a baseball game in every major league stadium, my last hurrah before having to grow up.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
that was summer of 99, 25 and a half years ago. And that's like over half of the stadiums have been replaced now with new stadiums. That's a trip. But coming
So
back,
now
like, what
you
do I
got to
want to
do it
do?
again with the new stadiums.
I've seen some of the new stadiums, but now I've got too much life. Too much
Yeah.
life is going on now to go like take 9.5 weeks to go drive 15,000 miles to see a baseball game. And so I did it at the right time, the only time I could. There's a little window. And then I got my first job after I was a headhunter. I was a recruiter. I would convince companies to pay me money if I found the people that they couldn't find. So my communication skills and a little bit of understanding of organizational development, organizational communication gave me some competitive advantage as a headhunter. But then, got married and kids and home owning and things transition. And next thing I know, they were in the worst economy since the Depression. And I'm formulating my C Corp in case I want to go consult and hang my own shingle. I'm getting my real estate license because I see a lot of idiots that are making a lot of money in real estate. And why not me? Right. And then mostly though, my wife and I agreed that she'd be corporate. Like, hey, you go ahead and be corporate and you do the stable corporate salary benefits thing. I'll be Mr. Mom with the first kid and I'll teach classes and I'll do real estate and this is, what I mean? Being parents, being available for our kids is important to both of us, and we made that decision. And so basically, I've been a solopreneur pushing And I got into personal and professional growth, by the way. That's the other thing. When I formed the C Corp, I started off as a consultant and I was wearing my real estate costume and handing out two cards, my real estate card, and then I had the other card like with the clip art, with the dude holding the light bulb, like need some ideas, get a clue. And that's what I was doing. And then I met a title rep, and I'm going to give a shout out to him if you don't mind. He was a title rep at the time, Brian Trachel. Now he knows more about LinkedIn than LinkedIn knows about LinkedIn. Like that's what he does. LinkedIn trainer, master, amazing guy. But he was a title rep, and he was successful as a title rep because he was in personal professional growth. He would go to the Brian Tracy's, and he would, like he would go to the events, and he would work on himself, and he would set the goals, and he'd be held accountable, and he understood coaching and all the stuff. So when I hand him these two cards at this real estate event, he looks at my card, and he says, "Oh, you're a coach?" And dude, Cyrus, no BS, man. I said, I postured. I said, Coach, read the card. It says consultant. By the way, I had made $0
Yeah.
at that time as a
Yeah.
consultant, but I postured, right? And I'm like, Coach, read the card. And then I was like, it went away. And I was like, what's a coach? What do you mean? And he explained to me basically what a coach is, but from the perspective of personal professional development. And I was like, if I learn that, I might be able to attach some other pieces to it and be good at it. So I went through 3 consecutive boot camp coaches trainings and I became really good. And then because of my experience in the classroom, instead of complaining about the problems with the trainings that I went through, I just said, hey, I'm here to learn what I'm here to learn. I'm not here to change the training. Don't bother me with water cooler talk. Because all the other students in the training, instead of doing the work, they wanted to complain about the training. I'm like, no, no, no,
Yeah,
no. I'm not
classic.
here. I'm not here. Yeah, I'm not here for that. So I kept my head down. My goal was to be the best student in the entire training, to get all the leads, or to get assigned. Now you realize that coaching's an eat what you kill business, despite what anybody tells you. It's an eat what you kill business. If you're a coach, you want somebody handing you clients, expect to be making way less than market value for coaching because there's the cost of client acquisition, and we can get into that, et cetera. But the idea is, I became a world-class coach, and then I built my own coaches training. I'm like, cool, 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 not so cool, not so cool. I'm going to make it my own. And then I got a reputation as a coach's coach or a trainer of coaches, professor of coaching. Then I got referred into a seminar organization to up level, enhance their coaching fulfillment,
Yeah.
right? Because they had a lot of seminar industry salespeople that they were calling themselves coaches, but they weren't real coaches. They would do a coaching session just to see what else they could sell you. And they're like, hey, we've got an issue on our hands. Jeff, can you come in and teach real coaching, provide real coaching, etc.? So next thing I know, I'm going around the world, 14 different countries, 4 continents, and I'm speaking and I'm training and I'm content speaking and I'm coaching and I'm getting people ready for big stages and big events and working with entrepreneurs and real estate investors. And so I had to retire from brick and mortar teaching at that point. I taught 2 or 3 classes per semester for 20 straight years from grad school through to when I started going around the world, and I couldn't maintain it anymore, because I was
Yeah.
just had too much demand. But then after COVID, I had to come back and reinvent and figure it out. No more travel. So that's when I built the Integrity Game brand and I started writing books. I just published my 6th book. And one of them, the Integrity Game, got noticed by San Diego State. And how would you like to reconnect with your alma mater? Oh my God, get me in the classroom. I would love to see what young learners think about my Integrity Game model. So they invited me to teach organizational communication, what brought me out of retirement, and it was an upper division elective. So I got to use the Integrity Game as a supplement to the textbook. And then they said, hey, Jeff, do you want to stay on board and teach our public speaking? Because the regular professor came back to cover 406. And I said, yeah, get me back in public speaking. So now it's awesome. I'm working with the first year students. They're homesick. They're mentally health challenged. They're tripping out on social media. And because Cyrus, human evolution works the way it does, are you ready? They're all growing third eyeballs out of their foreheads so they can defend themselves while they're on their devices. It's amazing the way that so the attention spans are different. The mental health is more challenged. They're distracted. They're imposter syndrome. Their role models are crazy. The division, the politics, the misinformation, the disinformation. It's nuts. And so to be there at the front of the room in front of these 18-year-olds that are brilliant, but they need somebody to believe in them. They need to find their voice. They need to get past the fear. They need to organize their thoughts. They need to be persuasive. They need to understand that there's still a place in this world for authentic intelligence. So that's
100%.
how, so that's kind of how I got to where I am.
That's interesting. So tell me more about the integrity game.
Yeah.
Like where did that come from? What's the concept? Share a little
Yep.
bit more about that.
Yeah. So integrity game is actually a Trojan horse to get us all into the accountability conversation. So the integrity game was born in the land of accountability, but you seem wise enough to know that accountability will always feel like an attack when anybody's not ready to be 100% responsible for their own behavior. So if I walk into the room and say, "Hello, everybody, I'm your keynote speaker. Today we're going to talk about accountability." How many of you have an external accountability source that you trust to hold up a mirror every time that you're going at it? Crickets, right? But if I say, "Hey, how many of you, we're going to play the integrity game. How many, by show of hands, how many of you believe you have integrity?" 100% of the room will raise its hand. And now I got him into a conversation. So I'm very wordsmithy. I love the idea of a Trojan horse. But conceptually, what you asked about at a high level, one of the reasons I'm on the planet is to make accountability less or non-threatening. What that's like a mission that like drives me, right? Like if you imagine what kind of a world we'd live in if accountability was non-threatening.
It's an interesting concept because that's the world that, I think what a lot of people don't understand is I interview a lot of people and I've come up with the equation success equals discipline and consistency over time,
Okay.
right? That takes accountability. That
Right.
takes that takes you, it's funny we talk about integrity because it's I have four traits that I hire pretty much everybody that comes and works with me that they have to have these four traits. It's my values, my core values. It's loyalty, integrity, drive, and service. And the reason you have integrity is because if you have integrity with your work, you have your own accountability. It's exactly like you
Hmm.
said.
Yeah.
But I have people that come into my office to a team meeting or whatever that I'm like, hey, yeah, come work with us, come look at what we do, yada yada. And they leave there like, that's a lot of accountability. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that.
Hmm.
And I feel like, I had this happen the other day. A girl came to my meeting. She was like, it's a lot of accountability. I feel like I need to get my, what together before I come over and join your team. I'm like, that's like saying you need to go get fit before you start going to the gym.
I know there's shock and awe when you come across you're talking about the curse of knowledge. So here's the thing, man. Congrats on your values, right? Like such command of core values that's missing in our world, right? More people should have that. But the other thing is that you're so familiar with your core values, you're so familiar with what you know. This is the curse of knowledge. Is when we're so familiar with what we know that we forget what it's like not to know.
Yep.
And now, if I forgot what it's like not to know, now I might be communicating from this, you know, from the like the land of expertise, but into a sea of novice, right? And so then we get shocked. We get like, what do you mean you don't believe you have your stuff together? What do you mean you don't believe in yourself enough to rise to the challenge? What do you mean you? It may be shocking to us, right? But here's what I liked about what you said is like, thank God, man, you're up front and you find out right away rather than getting the 89 days down the road with somebody and having to,
That's
you know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Yeah. So
that's the issue
that's
with a lot of companies is they'll hire people and they'll be like, oh yeah, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I spent all this time training and they left. It's like, well, because you didn't check them up front. Like,
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things that we can do is definitely optimize, renovate, retrofit the strategic staffing process. So basically, soft skills, right? I'm a soft skills guy, as a communication guy, right? So you do so much. It's all communication. So soft skills for strong leaders, soft skills for strong teams, soft skills for strong organizations. So examples of soft skills include assertiveness and self-confidence, or be a likable boss, or train the trainer, or presentation skills. We talked about public speaking, which we may come back to, but how to conduct a performance review, change management, emotional intelligence, right? There's over 100 of them, right? So, but they're all corporate, they're all generic, and they all kind of buzz and they resonate, right? But the integrity game, for me, it was born out of all of my work as a coach and an accountability coach, and all the work that I've done to how do you hold an adult accountable with all the smoke and the mirror and the story and the excuse and everybody lets themselves off the hook, but they're pointing fingers at others, and the emotional addictions and the habits and the patterns and the behaviors. And how do you hold somebody accountable to changing a behavior to go get what they really want? How do you hold somebody accountable to declaring what they really want? Most people in this world will avoid the responsibility of declaring what they want so that they can sit around and complain about what everybody else wants them to do. The only reason these people are afraid of the accountability is because they don't know what they want. They're not afraid of the accountability. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want. So now if they knew exactly who they were and exactly what they wanted, and that's why they were interviewing for your job, they'd be excited about all that accountability, right?
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me this, how do you get people to know what they want?
Well, you ask and you ask and you ask and you ask, but the part of that is it's like, seven parts ask, one part it's okay if they never know. Like you have to have grace, right? You have to create the space for whatever time it takes. And what the integrity game, by the way, more about the integrity, it's a 10-point model. Okay. It's a 10-point model. And I may tell you more about how I got to 10 points and so forth. But just for now, 10-point model, one of them is purpose, the first point. Now, I didn't come up with that. Like, and neither did Simon Sinek start with why. He popularized it, right? Simon Sinek. But like know your purpose has been around for a long time. It's always been helpful to know your purpose, right? Okay. So
100%.
the integrity game invites people to declare their purpose. Like what's the meaning of life? What do you think? Not for everybody else, but what do you think? You're not answering for the world. You're not giving it, it's not a test. There's no grade. You're not going to Webster with a definition. I just want to, what do you think is the meaning of life? Why does life exist? You may never come up with an answer. There's no right or wrong here, but I'm going to ask you to think about it. Yeah, to get you to answer this, what's the meaning of your life? Why are you here on this planet? Now, you may never know from a spiritual, right, or a reproductive, well, because my parents procreated. All right, cool. Why are you here? Right? Because whatever, you can make jokes because the condom broke or whatever. That's why you're here. No, what's your purpose, man? Like, why are you on the planet? Right? And I say that, like, why are you in the job? Why are you interviewing for this job? Because I need money. And that doesn't qualify you. Right? It's like, well, because this is where I want to take my career, and this company looks like it provides all the opportunities for me to make a contribution while advancing my career, where I can integrate what a company needs with what I want. Seems like a good match. That's you follow. So without knowing our purpose, what the hell are we doing? Period. Now, the integrity game doesn't care, Cyrus, if your purpose tomorrow is different than your purpose yesterday, but the integrity game cares if you live today without a purpose. It's like, so any day without a purpose, anything you're doing that day is like kind of building a mansion on top of quicksand. Like, what are you doing? What is it tethered to? What's the foundation? What's the goal of it? I'm just trying to get by. Well, if your purpose is to just get by, you're not qualified to work for Cyrus, right? Right. You're not going to live in this
100%.
from what you described. You're not going to survive in this environment. Well, tell me more about. So anyway, so there's purpose, then there's gifts, which gets us into competitive advantage and differentiation, and then there's potential, which I can go to corporate and break potential down into vision, mission, objectives. There's a chronological frame. Vision, farthest out we could possibly see. What do we see? It's a description. But then mission is still a ways out, but it's a destination and accomplishment that proves we're on our way to the vision. And then annual objectives that we then break down into quarterly goals, SMART goals, what by when, April 1st, July 1st, October 1st, etc. And then you get into strategies, tactics, and resources. Then you get into our relationship with our word and our commitment and the vibration of words and word and commitment. Then action taking action, right? Proactivity versus reactivity,
Yep.
proactive learning, and then what are we learning, accumulating, accomplishing, what are all the roses that we deserve to smell, that we need to smell, updating the resume, making sure that you know how to market yourself, not just so focused on what you don't have that you forget what you do. And then the final point on the model is serve. Who wins when we win? If my cup filleth up and floweth over, who drinks, right? And hopefully that has some sort of integration with purpose. So basically, it's a 10-point model, and it invites everybody to understand the questions, then answer the questions, then make sure your answers integrate rather than dilute or disempower each other, and then share your answers with an integrity game certified coach so that you can be held accountable in a less threatening way because they're your answers.
100%. I love that. I
It
love
loves
that.
you. It loves you too. Everything in the integrity game involving love is mutual.
Perfect.
It's always mutual. It
That's
loves you too.
that's really when you break down what I believe our highest purpose in life as human beings is to serve others, right? And that just comes down to love at the end of the day. That's the whole concept of the butterfly mindset is every single thing, little things create huge change, right?
Yeah.
It's chaos theory, right? So it's the flap of a butterfly's wings can create a hurricane on the other side of the world. It's I
I
believe
thought it
that
was a tsunami, but I'm teasing. I'm with
either
you,
one,
man.
right?
I
It could
love
do
it.
either one.
I love it. And so this is, I feel like I'm aligning with you vibrationally, right? And I just want to let you know, here's what it comes down to. You've heard, you could probably finish my sentence, right? If you're not growing, you are. If you're
Dying.
not, that's right. So that's it. So this is what you're talking about. Butterfly, we think
Yep.
evolution and like growing, constant growth and evolution, etc. So once you're not growing, you're dying. Well, I get it. So what I'm talking, one of the things I want to share with you about the integrity game is back to, right? If I'll just give the end game and I'll fill it in the backward. If we're not integrating, we might be disintegrating.
Yeah.
So most people, when I ask in a keynote, what is, how many of you believe you have integrity? Everybody raises their hand. And then, oh, I got my left. So if you raised your left, switch to your right and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear not to shoot the keynote speaker in 33 minutes. Right. And then when I get the laugh that I want, and then I say, hang on, I don't want to offend anybody and stand up here and suggest you don't have integrity. But I do think we should make sure we're talking about the same thing. What is it? And I'll ask the audience, this is where I stop, and I'm just jiving with the audience. What do you think integrity is? Now, I'll tell you that I already know what answers I'm going to get. I always get two answers. It never fails. I always get two answers, the same two answers. Every now and then I'll get a third or a different answer, but I can handle that and right, not let it disrupt the flow of the keynote. One answer, you're going to recognize it right away, is be your word. Do what you say you're going to do.
Yep.
Right. And then the other answer, you're going to recognize it as soon as I say it, is do the same thing when nobody's watching as you would when somebody is watching.
Yeah.
Those are the two answers I get. Right. So the thing about it is like, here's what's cool about those. Right. And this is what this is what I'm trying to do. When you say, tell me about the integrity game, and you start conceptually, or this is the thought leadership that I'm trying. Tell me what you think of this, because I respect your feedback on this, because it's still incubating. Right. What we like about these two answers is that in both cases, there is an integration. If we do what we say we're going to do, we're integrating word with behavior. There's a coming together of those two things. And then when we do the right thing, regardless of who's watching, there is an integration. It's our behavior with the value, the moral, like the core values,
Correct. Yeah.
right? Okay. So now does behavior integrate? Because there's so many companies out there that put the values on the wall and then you see their behavior, you're like, what?
Correct.
Right? Okay. So are we living our values, right? Are we behaving? So if there's an integration, but it's not, are you a good person or are you a bad person? No, it's just, I'm just trying to take the judgment out of it. You follow? Is your word together with your behavior or not? Is your behavior together with your values or not? So the first thing I like about the two answers, I get to focus on integration. And it's funny because I've asked this all over the world. I've asked, I mean, in 14 countries, dozens of engagements, etc. And I asked, what is integrity? And not once, to the hundreds or thousands of people I've asked, has anybody ever used the word integration in their answer. So the idea of just together or not together, integrated, is not anywhere in anybody's mind. The funny part, I know you got a sense of humor. The funny part is the math doesn't add up either. It's funny vibrationally. You've done enough speeches to know. Imagine you got a whole room in front of you. How many of you believe you have integrity? I do.
Yeah.
And everybody's so quick to helium hand and associate. And then less than 30 seconds later, when I'm saying, well, what is integrity? Oh, be your word or do what you say you're going to. And all of a sudden, their vibration, it's like snipers on a White House roof trying to prevent, like, man, you aren't. I'm like, wait a second, wait a second. I must be a lucky keynote speaker because I somehow got the percentage of the population that has integrity, but everybody without integrity is like somehow not here.
Yeah. Well, it's always that question, right? It's like it's so funny because it's I said something very similar at a speaking engagement recently. It's like at the end of the day, it's everybody comes to learn, but then you leave. Are you going to actually implement what you're learning?
That's the that's Bob. You're hitting on something. This is one of the reasons. I don't want to like bash the seminar industry, right? But you go and you've gotten away and you've traveled and you've rah-rahed and you've been hyped up. But if you don't have an external accountability source following you home
Yep.
from that seminar, it's just going to collect dust.
Well,
And
it's what you have here, right? Like you have motivation, accountability, results. So the other day I was speaking on motivation because someone in the audience asked me, hey, like I just the my biggest problem is I lack of motivation. And I'm like, well, motivation is temporary anyways, right? Like it is all about choice. Whether it's, and then you can go and you can argue accountabilities with that because you make the choice because you're accountable and so on and so forth. Whatever your accountability is, but it's all choice. It's not you don't do this because I made the decision. No, you made the choice to do so, right? You are the reason I go to the gym every day. I hate the gym, but the reason I go to the gym every day is because I chose to do so and I have the integrity to continue to do what my choice was,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And I think the motivation is great. You can have motivation some days, sometimes you don't, but without the integrity, without the accountability, without the choice, motivation's nothing because it comes and goes.
Yeah, I agree with you. And what you don't see here, there, right, is the first, if I'm coaching somebody, if I'm in a coaching relationship, before we get to motivation plus accountability, it starts with engagement, right? So that's the initial piece up front. Who are you and what do you want? And that, by the way, that's what the integrity game is doing. It's asking you tell me what your purpose is, you tell me. And so that's again Trojan horse, right? But to marry what I'm doing to your understanding, we're vibrating in the same wavelengths, right? But the idea is like if you tell me what your purpose is, you've decided what your purpose is. There's a lot of choices. So now don't tell me you don't have the motivation. You follow now it's empty, right? And say, oh, I don't have motivation to you already decided. Right. So now what it is you have you do have the motivation. You've already decided. You're excusing yourself. You're letting off the hook. So that goes back to integrity game. Somewhere in the keynote I say we judge ourselves by intent, but the rest of the world's just judging our behavior, and vice versa
Yeah.
is true. So it's amazing. Integrity is this thing. Remember like George Carlin? I don't know if you remember the comedian George Carlin, but he had this bit about, isn't it funny how everybody driving faster than you on the freeway is a freaking maniac, but
Yeah.
everybody driving slower than you on the freeway is a freaking moron? So we all have this autobiographical perspective, and everybody else that's not doing exactly what we're doing, they're eligible for our criticisms. But what we're not doing is looking within and criticizing ourselves. Given our choices, here's another Klubi snack. Left to our own devices, we will excuse ourselves more often than we will confront ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. So, with all of that said, you're working with, which I think is very interesting for me because you're working with the age group in the college. Let's talk about just college. You're working with first years,
Yeah.
right? 18, 19-year-olds mostly, right?
Yep.
And I think and people will say what they do, but I think that generation, especially now, has the shortest time or shortest attention span,
Yep.
has I arguably the highest lack of accountability over most generations, because I think this generation, what I've noticed from hiring this generation is people feel that they could instantly have success somewhere,
Yep.
right? Because people could become famous like this overnight. So why can't I just do that? Oh, I could just go start an internet business and do this and make my Wi-Fi money. But the reality is the reality is
Yeah.
I think success, long-term success comes from consistent work, right? So how do you instill and create and the have these kids create their own sense of accountability and integrity when everything in their lives is telling them to go the opposite way?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. You're hitting on it. Social media has a lot to do with that. Like mental health is become normalized, you know what I mean? And entitlement. And then you got a lot of like divorced parents that have like not confronted their children because they don't want to be the disliked parent among, there's a lot of kids that are playing parents against each other, even if they're not divorced, right?
Yeah.
But like there's a lot of factors there, right? And so yeah, and that's why I'm passionate about it because I know that these people, these kids, they need somebody to believe in them. They need somebody to help them find their voice, etc. So back to how do you deal with it? How do you challenge, right? Like first of all, by example, right? I show up every day. I have enthusiasm every day. I am organized every day. I bring in the experience, right? But when I tell them I love them, I mean it. When I tell them it's a treat to give back, and I come up with my shtick and my hooks, like no Aztec left behind, San Diego State University, right? Um, but so by example is one way. Okay. Another word that comes to mind is upfront and early,
Yeah.
right? So I'll give you an example. On day one, I put 4 questions on the board so I can get them busy, answering questions while I'm doing administrate, roster, and you got to take attendance and get ready to submit, you know what I mean? If somebody's not there on the first day, you need to mark it,
Yep.
all this stuff. Anyway, it's like, all right, hey everybody, I'm gonna put these 4 questions on the board. So take out a piece of paper and don't put I make my jokes, right? Don't put your name on it. If you put your name on this piece of paper, you're gonna fail the class. Like I got their attention, and now I'm dad joking,
Yeah.
right? And they're like, what? I'm like, hey, so here, leave a little bit of space, right? I'm gonna put the questions on the board and write them down. Leave space for your answers, but don't put your name on this. No right or wrong answers. So the 4 questions that I ask, one is what is communication, just to remind them they're in a communication course, right? Number two, though, is why take this class, right? Why take Speech 103? Okay. And I'll just tell you, the third question is what are your expectations for the course? And then finally, what's the difference? Compare and contrast priority with responsibility. So those are the 4 questions that I put on the board, right? So, and I list them like they appear one at a time. So I get to do a little stand up on each question, right? So first of all, what is communication? It's communication class. You're going to be expected to communicate verbal and written, the whole deal, whatever. What is communication? I hope to clear up and make sure you're aware of the most important communication skill is listening. You think it's a public speaking class? It's not. This is a listening class. It's going to take discipline and focus to listen. You're going to give 4 speeches, but look around. There's 21 classmates. You're going to listen to 84 speeches. So this is a listening class, not a public speaking class. That's number one. Number two, right? So I'm planting seeds about what I expect for their attendance and what's really important. Number two, why take Speech 103? So this is where I get to have a little bit of fun. How many of you are taking this class because you want every dollar you earn the rest of your life to come from public speaking? It's like crickets, and they're starting to laugh. They're like, "No, not me." And they're looking around. Who? I'm like, "Okay, if I want more response, if I want more hands to go up, I have to ask a better question." So I'm showing them that I take responsibility, and that's up
Yeah.
to me, right? Say, "All right, how many of you are taking this course because I have to?" And they all laugh and they raise their hands. So I'm like, all right, keep your hands up if you're a little nervous, a little scared, all the way to terrified for public speaking. And they all keep their hands up. And I'm like, okay, stop. We'll get to you guys in a minute. But I'm the one standing in front of 22 adults that don't want to be here. Can we get a little love for the professor, please?
Yeah.
None of you want to be here. You're all terrified. What would you do if you were me? If you were standing in front of 22 adults that didn't want to be there, what would you do? So you develop, anyway. But then what are your expectations? Number three, what do you expect you're going to learn in the course? What do you expect from me as a professor? And I remind them, you guys all know what counts as good professor, bad professor. How many of you have gone to ratemyprofessor.com or ratemywho.what? And they're like, oh, yeah. And they start laughing. And I'm like, you go there to find out what classes you shouldn't take. Well, how many of you checked out Klubeck in ratemyprofessor.com, right? So you know what counts as good professor, right? But more important, what do you expect for yourself? And so this is, it's a big buildup, Cyrus, but like I do a shtick, right? I say, what are your expectations for you? Can you tell me what you expect? I expect to do speeches. I expect to write outlines. I expect to get to know my classmates. Cool. That's what you expect for the course. What do you expect for the teacher? Oh, I expect to be fair, approachable, grade fair, understand. Okay, cool. Got it. What do you expect for yourself? So many students, they think this course sucks or this professor sucks, but they haven't looked within about what they expect for themselves. I'm telling you right now, if you expect to get an A, it doesn't matter what this course is or what kind of a professor I am. If you expect to get an A, guess what you're going to get? An A. right? That's because of who you are and how you want to look yourself in the mirror. But hang on, maybe not everybody wants an A. And I let them know right off the bat. I love you just the same. If you want a C, I love you just as much as you who want an A. Oh, don't forget, those of you who are B students, you just want a B and you're happy with a B, I love you too. I love you as much as the C's and the A's. I'm not here to judge any of you. Just because I'm teaching the class doesn't mean it has to be the most important thing in your life. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, I know you all have three other classes. You have your health, you have some families. How many of you work on campus or have to get a job? How many of you are rushing fraternities or sororities? How many of you are doing clubs and sports and recreation? How many of you are trying to figure out how you're going to tolerate your shitty roommate that you got paired with? How many of you have family back home? How many of you miss your pets? Okay. If my class is the most important thing in your life, you're a loser. And they can't believe it. They're like, what? Right?
It's like something that comes from the other side. Yep.
Totally blowing their mind. And so I said, okay, so let's get this out of the way. How many of you want a fail? You expect to fail? And they all look at me like, what? I'm like, what? Nobody? Okay, that's good because I charge $100 for a fail. You come on up, you give me $100, I go right to the grade book, I put an F in there, and we don't have to see each other again. And I don't have to take the hours reading your emails and excuses and you going to the professor or the dean and complaining about me because you don't do your work. Hey, it's a great deal. I'll put it right. You don't have to come to class. Think about how many hours you save over 16 weeks per class. It's a sweet deal. Nobody? No takers? All right. How many of you want a D? I charge 500 for a D because D's means degrees. It's in passing grade. So same thing though. Come on up, give me $500. I'll put a D in the book right now, and then you never have to come back to class. Think about all the hours that you save. Divide 16 weeks times 2 hours a week plus the homework. So now we're 30, 50, 60 hours. Divide $500. Come on, that's a sweet deal. To nobody? Okay, so you are all telling me right now that you all want to see or better, right?
Good frame. That's a good way to frame it.
So then here's the promise that I will make you. If you show up and do the work and do what I didn't sign you up in this class. Do what you came here to do. Finish what you started. All right. I promise you, you'll get a C or better. I'm standing at the hurdle, but I'm not going to leave the hurdle, go to the starting line and push you, pull you, drag you, lift you, throw you. I'm standing at the hurdle. You run and jump. If you run and jump, I promise you will all get over the hurdle. You will all pass. I don't care if you score 60%. I don't care if you score 50% on everything. If you do all of your work, you're at least average in my book. And I'm the one that decides the grades. So run and jump, I'll get you over. But do we all have a deal? Nobody's here to fail or get a D. Nobody's going to be below average or fail this class. Are we all in agreement?
That's a good one. Yeah. So you set it up front. Yep.
Up front. So by example and up front are my two answers to that question. And then you stay with them along the way. You provide resources. You eliminate the excuses. I record every class session. If I screen shared right now and I showed you the Canvas and the learning management system, etc., they can watch class recordings from last semester. They can watch class recordings from this semester. Plus I go on Sunday night on office hours and I make a recording and I say, hey, everybody, this is what we covered in class last week, and here's what's coming up next week. Make sure you, make sure you, make sure you, make sure you. And then if students show up on Sunday night, I stop what I'm doing and I answer their questions. So I literally eliminate any chance they have to blame their performance on me.
Yeah.
Like, are you saying I didn't show up to class? Are you saying I wasn't there early? Are you saying I didn't teach with enthusiasm? We can watch the recording. Are you saying the recording wasn't available to you? Are you saying I didn't provide last year's recordings? And are you saying, oh, I didn't go the extra mile and make myself available? And I'm saying I didn't provide an example of the assignment. I didn't let you, like, I provide examples and samples and models and templates and instruction and recordings and just to make sure that there's absolutely only one reason they get the grade they get. It's because of their performance. It's behavior, 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 and nothing else.
It's something that's very interesting because this is, I asked that question. It's kind of a loaded question for me because I kind of figured this thought process out, right? And then I think what's important is to understand that this method is good not just for the 18, 19-year-olds. It's good in business.
Yeah.
It's good in everything that you do in your life, with your kids, with your business, with your everything. And
Everything.
if you can structure your life this way, you're going to get the results from the people that want to get results. And if they don't want to get results, you can't help people. You
That's right.
cannot. So so I had a conversation. Have you heard of Tim Grover? He's the guy who taught the guy
Yeah.
who's
You mean the
yes, the
trainer for
trainer.
Michael Jordan and
Yep,
Kobe Bryant and
correct.
all that? Yeah,
Yeah.
Grover. Yeah.
So I had a conversation with him last year, the year before, and I had coached USC women's soccer. So I used to play soccer for a living. That's what I used
Okay.
to do.
Oh, great.
And I asked him, I said, "Hey, I'm curious. You've coached some of the best athletes in the world. I was an elite athlete. For me, it was never an issue of me showing up to the field because I wanted it. Like there was never an issue of like me doing the extra work because I wanted it. And I was
Yeah.
told this is what you had to do, so I just did it.
Yeah.
Right? How do you get the best out of the people that are already the best? And I asked him, how do you push them to become even better? Because they already want it. They already, and he goes, Cyrus, here's the thing. He goes, you coach some of the top girls in the country. He goes, let me put it to you this way. My job as a coach, and I tell every single person this when I coach them, the first day I coach them, he goes, my job as a coach is not to get you from 80 to 100. My job is to get you from 100 to 120. And it's setting the stage up front.
Hmm.
My job as a trainer, my job as a coach, my job as a leader is to elevate you, to help you grow,
Grow.
not to get you to 100% output. You should get to 100% output as it is. Just like you said, your job, it's not to go push you from the start line. It's to stand at the hurdle, help you get over the hurdle,
Yeah. That's
right?
right.
And I think a lot of the times, as leaders or as individuals, it's the excuse of, well, I had someone one time, an agent that I was coaching. Well, can you just text me every day what I need to do? And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Because I have the motivation, I have the choice. I've made the choice to go and push on and do it. You need to make that choice, and then I'll help support you throughout there. But my job is not to get you to do the work. My job is to help you do the work better.
Yeah. Again, people are looking for any hole, any chink in the armor, any window they can crawl through to avoid being responsible for themselves. So,
100%.
so what we have to do is we have to make 100% self-responsibility attractive. So we have to make accountability non-threatening. So we have to have people decide and declare what they want rather than tell them what they want. And we can't let them. Here's the other thing too. A lot of these people that are getting coached, or some of you, I don't know about your example specifically, um, but a lot of people don't want what they say they want. They
Correct.
don't really want. They haven't decided what they want, so they avoid the work of the soul searching and the vulnerability of deciding what they want, and they just look and see what other people have, and they say, "Well, I want what they have." And it's like you're never going to get what they have because you don't really want what they have. What you want is to avoid declaring what you want.
100%. Yep. I
So
love that.
that's what the integrity game is trying to do is hold people accountable in a non-threatening way to what they want. I'm not going to support if you go and tell me that you want to keep up with the Kardashians, right? I've got a series of questions and a series layers of onion to peel to find out if I really believe you, if that's what you really want. And
Yeah.
if I arrive at a place where like, holy shit, I don't know if I'm allowed to use adult
Yeah,
language on
you're
your
good. You're
podcast, man. Oh,
good.
yeah, fuck yeah. No, no, it's like, all right. No, but like if I think, wow, you really want to keep up with the Kardashians. So, okay, how do we keep up with the Kardashians? I don't need to tell you what to do every day. What are the Kardashians doing? Do that. All right. Did you do it? When did you do it? By when will it be done? How will I know that it's done? So we can get granular and we can escort people into their calendar to make appointments with themselves and we can help them to pick the strategy. Hey, Kardashians got there this way. You can get to the same place a different way if you want to. Do you want to same journey or same destination. Let's be clear about what we're talking about, right? On and on and on and on. But at the end of the day, and this is why with smart goal setting, um, you have to hold people accountable to really wanting it and believing they can get it. Without those two pieces, the whole thing is lame duck. They have to really want it and they have to believe that they can get it. Without those two pieces, you're gonna have a hard time holding people accountable. So the
Yeah.
person that comes in, right? And I challenge them too, back to public speaking in the classroom. You're talking about the generation, but imagine the topic now. Dude, all of those generational hurdles that you mentioned, right? The
Yep.
mental health, the entitlement, all the stuff, the quick fix, you know, it's anyway. What about the topic? Public speaking, right?
Yep.
So one of the things I have to do is like, how many of you are afraid of public speaking? Well, guess what? You're not afraid of public speaking. What? I'm like, let me tell you how they established that public speaking is the number one fear. They did social science research and they go to like the food court or the farmer's market or the prison where like there's a bunch of people in one spot so they can get all the surveys done as quickly as possible, right? We surveyed 1,000 people. They were all in the food court at the shopping mall, but never mind. They were all in a prison, but never mind. We
Yeah.
surveyed 1,000 people. And it's like, how many of you have seen those, right? So it's like the questions are, do you agree? Do you strongly agree? Do you neither agree nor disagree? Do you, disagree or strongly disagree? And they've all seen those questions, so they know what I'm talking about, right? So then I say, so somebody comes up and says, hey, can we give you $1 off hot dog on a stick if you answer this survey, a coupon for $1 off? You Shake Shack if you answer this survey, or right? And they go, sure. So they get to the question, Cyrus, and it says, I would rather die than give a speech. And they go, strongly agree. They got a circle of 5 on a piece of paper after getting $1 off Shake Shack. But
Yeah.
if you came up to them, Cyrus, and said, would you rather die or give a speech? They'd be like, how long do I have? What's the topic? Can I go twice?
Yep.
You know, right? So the reality is we are not more afraid of public speaking than death. But what people will do is, I'm afraid of public speaking, I'm afraid of public speaking, I'm afraid of public speaking. And they'll use that as the excuse, the legitimized fear of public speaking as the excuse or reason not to do the work and sign up for the class that they need to pass. It's like, you're afraid of public speaking. No, that's exactly why you take the class, to get over your fear of public speaking. Not the
Correct.
reason to give you a grade for work you're not doing. you know? And so a lot of times the reasons that people have for avoiding things are the exact reasons that they need to embrace them or pursue them. The only way out is through, as I'm sure you know. But
Yeah.
dude, yeah, I wish you would have mentioned that earlier. I should have known that, by the way. Forgive me for not doing more homework. But the mindset of a D1 athlete is a lonely place. Do you follow? Because you understand discipline, sacrifice, coachability, pushing yourself, risking injury, teamwork, sacrifice. All the stuff is just like ABCs to a top Division 1 and up athlete, right?
Yep.
My son got a scholarship, Division 1 baseball scholarship to San Diego State. Didn't play, red-shirted, transferred. Now he's enjoying a good start to his season at Palomar College down here. He's starting to get more attention from D1s again. But like I see the sacrifices that he makes. I see the habits. I see the consistency. I see the rhythm. I see the clockwork. I watched him go through what his friends were doing versus, and we had to have the conversation. AJ, don't BS me. Do you want to play baseball? Yeah. Well, I don't believe you. What do you mean? Well, if you wanted to play baseball, you wouldn't be doing this, and you wouldn't be doing this, and you wouldn't be doing this, and you wouldn't be doing. Hey, it's okay if you want to do this, and you want to be a kid, and you want to be your friends, and your girlfriend wants you to sneak out at night, and whatever, whatever, whatever. If you
Yep.
want to do, I'm not mad at you for doing these things. What I'm curious about is, do you want to play baseball? Because if you want to play baseball in college, you can't do these things. So let's just tell the truth and I'll support you as your dad either way. But don't tell me you want to play baseball and I put all this effort into supporting you in baseball and you're not supporting yourself.
Yep.
That's over. So tell me again, do you want to play baseball? Okay. Who's communicating to your friend group what the boundaries are? Me? Am I going to call their parents and talk to your parents about what you guys have been doing? Or are you going to establish a boundary with your friends and protect your opportunity to play college baseball? I love you no matter what, but don't have me supporting this when you're supporting that. Let's get on the same page.
Yep. 100%. As a I always say, you know, that's why when you go into the workforce or whatever as an athlete and you say, "Oh yeah, I was an elite athlete, I was a professional athlete," they say, "Oh, we'd love to hire these people because they know that they have these traits." Because in order to be successful as an elite athlete, you have to have these traits.
It's not
And
just understanding what it takes, it's the years of having done it that it's transferable skill. You cannot ever put that genie back in the bottle. You
correct,
did the work. That's who you are. And a lot of people,
100%.
so I was not an elite athlete, but I raised one.
Yeah.
And I just have a lot of admiration for your journey and how you show up every day. And I hope you're kind to yourself and you have room to be patient and compassionate with others that didn't walk your walk, man. And that's part of it is giving human beings a little bit of slack, but not backing down on you know there's a fence. We're either inside accountability or we're outside. But even though we're inside accountability, there's a lot of room to run around here.
Yeah, I think that it's all about tolerance and integrity. Like when I explain it, it's tolerance and integrity. It's integrity to stick with what you want and how you want it and what you want and where you want to go, and the tolerance to understand other people might not want that, right? And if we can live our lives with tolerance and integrity at the same time, I think the world would be such a better place. I mean, just in general, like let's just talk
Yeah.
about in politics and whatever. You know,
Yeah.
we can have so much better conversations when I know, hey, I'm going to believe what I believe in. I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to tell you you're an idiot for not believing what I believe in. The world would be such a better place, but you know, I digress, right? But
Yeah.
like
Well,
as
That's
an
that's that's another reason I like the integrity game, right? Because then I get to say, guess it's very easy. You know this. What happens to a building, bridge, or tunnel without structural integrity?
correct
It collapses
collapses. Yep.
when pressure tested. So now I get to very easily say human beings, teams, and organizations are no different. Without structural integrity, we will collapse under pressure tests too. And what you brought up is I decided I want to be a D1 athlete. Well, if somebody else decided they didn't want to, right? That's a pressure test, by the way, when your peer group, because you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
It's a major,
100%.
but with structural integrity, we're talking about resilience and retrofitting, renewing my commitment. That tough conversation with my son that I, summarized for you a minute ago. That was retrofitting his commitment to baseball, where it had holes in it. You follow? And so the integrity game wants to help us retrofit ourselves. Let's look within. Make it easy and fun to look within. Let's be jovial. Let's be dad jokey. Let's laugh our way to the learning. But let's take responsibility for ourselves. Let's declare what we want, and let's allow people to hold us accountable to what we want rather than complaining about what everybody else wants and why we're not motivated to do that or why that seems like it would be too hard. We got to fall in love with who we are and what we want, and then nothing will seem hard.
Yeah, I love that. So you've created the integrity game. You've written multiple books. You're changing lives as a professor. What's next on your journey?
Well, we haven't talked about this a lot. We don't need to, but what's in my future is Vistage speaking. If you're familiar with Vistage and the peer advisory CEO peer advisory groups, I see a lot of that in my future. I'm going to be doing my first Vistage talk next week on Thursday, and I have a feeling it's going to lead to a lot more. So I'm excited to get my concepts of the integrity game, my integrity game keynote into these boardrooms of 16 CEOs that are acting as peer advisors to one another and start to see what the CEO response is to the integrity game. And first of all, can it help them retrofit themselves? Because who's more pressure tested other than HR, where shit rolls in every direction to HR? But other than that, who's more pressure tested than the CEO? Right? Like the politics, the pressure, the lives that are at stake, the VPs wanting their job, the board members trying, I mean, wow, right? So can the integrity game help a CEO, first of all, in and of themselves, with the structural integrity, the resilience to withstand their pressure tests, right? And then secondly, can CEOs see the integrity game as a complete soft skill delivery system for their organizations? And wouldn't it be great for me to go into organizations and teach high performance teams the integrity game so they structure, retrofit, resist pressure tests, get on the same page, and give each other permission to hold each other accountable to their best, right? So that's one thing that I can see. I don't want to. I'm not ready to stop teaching. I just love it too much. I'm making too much of a difference with these young people. But more speaking, you know, yeah, more speaking on the integrity game. And I just feel it strongly that this time next year I probably have a dozen or two Vistage gigs under my belt, and then that's going to lead to more opportunities to get into those companies and see because I've incubated the integrity game, in the seminar and I've been in the classroom, and now I want to see how this lands with CEOs for themselves and then their organizations. I want to see if the integrity game can live and breathe as a soft skill delivery preference, in licensing integrity game, licensing in companies, on integrity game or creating integrity game coaches and speakers, training people how to deliver the integrity game keynote, how to deliver integrity game coaching. I want integrity game. That's what I'm working on. Um, to answer your question, but Vistage is going to be a big
Yeah,
opportunity for me.
that's awesome. And where can people find you? Where can people connect with you?
I think the best thing is LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn, look for Jeff Klubeck or Jeffrey Klubeck.
Can
Um,
you do me a favor and spell that
Yeah,
for audio?
Klub, as in boy, ECK for audio only. And I'll say it again. Klubeck, like get a clue, but Klub, as in boy, ECK. Klubeck
Killer.
on
So
LinkedIn. Yeah.
connect with Jeffrey on LinkedIn. I appreciate you being on today. Thank you so much for your time. It was way better than expected. So I appreciate it.
Oh, cool. And you had good expectations. So that means we should keep it rolling. I'm happy to come back anytime. And of course, we can develop our relationship outside of the podcast. I love the way you vibrate, Cyrus. I really have a lot of admiration for what you've done in your world. And thank you very much for having me on.
Hell yeah, appreciate it, brother.
All right, man.